Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
You're listening to Roundtable with myself, Heyang. I'm joined by Steve Hatherly and Yunqi in the studio. Coming up, is leaving work on time a crime? It shouldn't be. Yet for many, it comes with guilt and anxiety. In China's office culture, sneaking out as the clock strikes 6 p.m. has almost become an art form. So why is it so hard to walk out the door at exactly 6 p.m. with pride? And joy is everywhere, especially today. Join us at Roundtable's Happy Place as we celebrate Macau Special Administrative Region's 25th anniversary with uplifting stories and cherished memories that remind us all to find happiness in every moment. Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on your favorite podcast platform. And have you a question worth exploring? We are game. Send it to us at roundtablepodcast@qq.com. Emails are fine, but bonus points for voice memos because they are a listener's favorite and we love hearing your voice, of course. And now on Roundtable, as we move on to the next topic discussion today. In today's Chinese workplace, leaving the office on time is sometimes seen as a risky move, potentially marking you as uncommitted or disengaged. And this phenomenon, coined as 无痕下班, or leaving work without a trace, describes the subtle strategies workers use to discreetly leave the office without drawing attention. And let's take a look at the tactics and the underlying anxiety that comes with leaving the workplace on time. Guys, do you ever feel the pressure of staying on later? Maybe you don't have that much to do, but just staying on after 6 p.m., which is the time we are supposed to leave work.
Nope.
Okay.
No problem.
Who doesn't, I think.
I don't have any anxiety about leaving at 6 p.m. You also don't have that anxiety?
Who doesn't have the anxiety
yes,
of
right.
leaving here, especially if you are someone from China, South Korea, Japan, these East Asian countries. I suppose the overtime working culture is pretty common here.
Yeah, I'm new to China, but I lived in Korea for over 20 years, and I experienced this on more than one occasion, witnessing the 6 p.m. contractual have to stay at the office time versus the time that people actually go home. And people don't go home at the end of their office hours. And the reason that I was told is because, and it's a very complicated issue, and maybe it's the same here in China, is that office workers, this is what people told me, they feel pressured to stay in the office because they don't want to be the first one to stand up, put their coat on, and walk out the office door. Because when they do that, then everyone else sees them, and they are running the risk of being looked at as the lazy person or the person who isn't dedicated to the job or to the company. So oftentimes what people would do is wait for the CEO or someone in upper management to go home, and then people will slowly form a line kind of and follow them out the door. Does that sound familiar with the Chinese office culture?
I think that's a very accurate description for the overtime culture here.
Yeah.
Well, but I think it's important also to differentiate that maybe in some industries in China, it's more like that than others. For example, tech has this infamous reputation of having gruesome work hours. And working extra hours is not news. And we've even seen that some good-hearted people, employers, or just observers, I suppose, voice their concern and saying, hey, we really need to curtail those hours. And sometimes people are there to do extra work. Sometimes they're not necessarily, though, putting in all those extra hours to finish the work.
Yeah, and in my experience of working in a company in Korea and also working here in a company in China, it's just my personal observation. And my opinion's quite strong on this, I think. If you're at work and you're working, meaning actually doing your job, and you can complete your tasks within your scheduled working time, 8 to 5, 9 to 6 or whatever, then it's completely unnecessary to have to stay at the office beyond your time, because this can lead to a lot of problems in the future. And I'll cite not just my opinion. I went to the World Economic Forum, and this cuts in the middle of a paragraph, but I want to read to you verbatim what it says from the World Economic Forum. But in some organizations, there is an expectation that everyone will work beyond their contracted hours as a matter of course. This can lead to a culture where people who leave on time are regarded as disloyal or showing a lack of commitment. This is what I mentioned before. Even if this attitude doesn't exist among senior managers, there may be one or two individuals who make a point of staying later than everyone else in a public display of dedication. But presenteeism, as it's sometimes called, can be damaging to people's health, productivity, and well-being. And it's not just here in Asia. It's in North America where this happens. It's in other parts of the world as well. For example, each month, a typical worker in the UAE is likely to clock up an extra 24 hours at work, and 71% of them feel that their workplace suffers from presenteeism. So it is an issue around the world where people feel pressure to stay at the office later. But 1 hour extra a day, that might not lead to your untimely death, an early death. But at the same time, that adds up, and it makes you feel more exhausted for the next day at work, and perhaps it might lead to less motivation for you in the office as well. This, in my opinion, is a very unhealthy strategy for a company to employ.
Yeah, and I think working over time may not be productive, but rather counterproductive, as Steve pointed out, that people might feel like after working these extra hours from work, they might want to take more time after work to rest themselves. And actually their brains may be overworked, burnt, and not ready for the work hours in the second day. So which results doesn't lead us to more productivity, but rather decreases the productivity.
Yeah, so I looked it up about, in Canada, that I'm Canadian, that's my general sentiment, but what's the general sentiment in Canada? And of course, we can't talk about a whole country, and say everyone's the same, but for the sake of our conversation, let's generalize, shall we? It says, while some Canadians may occasionally stay late at the office, it's generally not as common as in some other cultures, as Canadian work culture tends to prioritize a healthy work-life balance, with standard working hours being typically 8 to 5 Monday to Friday, meaning most people are expected to leave at a reasonable hour. And I think that's what's so important to me personally, for example. I feel with confidence that I'm achieving my goals between the hours of 9 and 6 or 8 and 5 or what have you. But beyond that, people have their outside lives too, right?
Please flag that line and just make sure everybody hears you.
Yeah.
There is a life that exists outside of the office.
Outside the four walls. Yeah.
And I don't think that should be news for people.
Well, what are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, actually, before I get into my thoughts, I would really like you guys to get into what's happening now. What are some of the clever tactics workers have used to leave the office without being noticed these days in China?
These are fantastic. Please.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think when there's the stress to leave, people will naturally develop their own strategies of working around these rules to try to leave the workplace early. And some people, for example, myself included, that we prefer to not bring backpacks to the workplace.
No bags, no evidence.
Yeah, because if you don't take your own bag, especially a larger backpack, then it'll not be so obvious when you leave the workplace. You can actually pretend you're just going over, to a toilet.
Understood, because if your bag is at your desk all day and then suddenly your bag is gone, that means you're gone. But if your bag is never there and suddenly you're not there, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are gone for the day.
Yeah, and this process of taking your bags and leave, it's also quite an obvious target for everyone else in the office.
Oh, that is
People
wonderful.
Can see you.
That is wonderful. Here's another one. Have you tried this one? Or maybe in this building, you know where it is? The secret escape route?
Oh, tell me.
Oh, well, so in our building anyway, we have our one kind of main elevator area. But there are other elevator areas, the roads less traveled, perhaps, that, the maintenance staff tend to use more commonly. But when it's time to go home, there's the 5 p.m. crowd. I don't know if you've noticed the 5 p.m. crowd, but they love using the service elevators at that time. So maybe finding a route where your bosses are unlikely to be is a common way for Chinese office workers to sneak out a little early.
Yeah. And the great length that people go and also the tactics that they've come up with includes planning a detour after leaving the office. So let's say you're going to have dinner or go to the gym, but you're also signaling that you're coming back. So, of course, don't...
All right.
Something like that. And
Yeah, like I'm going downstairs to pick up my dinner delivery.
Yeah,
then
but actually...
I'll be back up.
You won't be back until tomorrow morning.
I just take it.
Do people do that? I'm just going to go grab something real quick and then the back
implying that you're coming back.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Which maybe, in fact, you just take the bag straight back home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, people are really creative. And it's not like they're leaving early particularly. It's more like, when we talk about this, it makes me feel a little bit sad. It's like people, they're not cutting hours. They just want to go on time, but they feel the psychological pressure or peer pressure or fear of judgment of some sort that they don't feel like I can go out in pride with my head held up high. And they're not breaking any rules, excuse me. So what do you think is driving this culture, or what are the root causes behind the pressure to stay longer?
Yeah, so Steve, as an expat, having lived in South Korea for over 2 decades,
Yeah.
and now China, what's your observation?
Well, I like what I talked about before from what people told me. There's expectations within the office, I guess. Many companies, it's the unspoken culture, right? It's not to say that you can't leave at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. There's nothing stopping you, and nobody's going to stop you. But perhaps you're putting your reputation at risk with others in the office, right? And they'll look at you like you are the lazy one. And with that comes judgment, right? So people don't want to get judged by their coworkers as well. And also, I would guess, office cultures are very competitive, right? Promotions come around from time to time, and people want those promotions. So if you're the one who is consistently standing up first at 6 p.m. and leaving, then that might hurt your chances. So all of those things combined, I guess. And don't get me wrong, I said in the beginning of our chat that I don't agree with it, but that's not to say that I don't understand it. I fully 100% understand the pressure behind.
And so now please allow me to take this conversation sort of to the next level, because a while back I read something that was very interesting to me, that saying these stressful anxiety, the anxious culture in the whole East Asia countries, China, South Korea, Japan, are very largely rooted in the geography. Because historically speaking, the soil conditions in this area, they are not the best to support the dense population here. So we can just cultivate just about enough rice, food, for the amount of population living in this area. So that's why people here are used to working a bit extra hard so we can survive. So we can survive among this huge population.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, whereas if you look at other regions in the world where they have better soil conditions, I don't want to be name calling, but in those areas, you might find people more laid back because just maybe thousands of years ago, they are just used to not having to work hard to trying to get resources.
You could get your farming work done within a certain number of hours in the day, which allowed you to take a break at a more reasonable hour.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard about that before.
Yeah, so geography really does affect a civilization or a population's culture. Because if you look at Italy, Southeast Asian countries, people there are way more laid back to us Eastern Asians, because I guess because of the amount of sunshine they get every year, naturally you just have flocks of tourists visiting there, and where you can depend on tourism to make money, not having to worry about other sorts of materials, incentive, financial resources.
Yeah, I suppose competition has something to do here because you mentioned basically the scarcity of resources can really drive people to compete more because and also if you want the better life for yourself, for your family, etc., then no wonder some people than others. I wouldn't necessarily confine it to geographic confines, but it drives people to work extra hard. And also when let's say if you're in an economy that's not buzzing and humming along as it used to be, then when, jobs are not super abundant and then you have maybe a ton of people competing for the same job.
Absolutely.
Or everybody's feeling, oh, maybe I don't or not everybody, but people might feel that my job security is not that particularly safe, then they would, and those who really want to hang on to that job, they will try their best to do so. But also if you look at China, some of the the employees in public organs who feel that their jobs are maybe a little bit more on the secure side, I've seen people who clock out at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. depends on the out hours, time to close shop, and they have no pressure, it seems, to go on time. So it really depends on also your industry, your company, your employer, and let's say if your employer is a good Samaritan, he or she leaves work exactly on the dot, I think it does a great service for everyone.
Yeah, there's a big benefit for companies because they're offering their employees better work-life balance, right? So paying attention to that outside life, which is maybe more important than the one inside the four walls, depending on what you do for a living, you could argue. This makes employees more productive. You have clear boundaries, right? It's clear for everyone. And then there's the mental health benefits as well. And what I said before is in a vacuum, right? Not taking into account pressures like maintaining your career and feeding your family. But when we consider the fact that, companies, it's better for the companies to create these boundaries for employees, then I think the changes within a company have to come from the top down. Bosses, CEOs need to tell their employees, it's 6 p.m., it's time to go home. Great job today, everybody. Enjoy your evening. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And make it clear to the employees so that they don't feel that pressure and everybody can react the same.
Yeah, and I'd just like to wrap up this conversation by pointing out that we are not just the victims of this overtime culture, that we're also benefiting from it somehow.
How?
Because I'm not that kind
You're
of people.
You're walking on thin ice, my friend.
But there are people in China who get angry when the delivery for their lunches or dinners are late. And they might leave a bad review on these food delivery apps because people are used to enjoying this super fast efficiency of getting your order, getting your online orders as well. And I think this is also largely due to this competitiveness environment in the workplace that our delivery men, they are clocking the extra hours to bring our orders to our doorsteps. Yeah, so while we are victims somehow in this culture, we are also benefiting from this productivity.
Fair point.
Well, from a macro perspective, maybe promote a results-oriented culture, not an hours-oriented culture, and also better perfect our legal system to protect the lawful rights of our citizens. And a lot of this kind of operates in the gray area, and it would be, I hope more bosses are listening to this show, maybe to get some good ideas. And also, if you're an employee, there are plenty of things that we could do. For example, us three, we go out of the... actually, we follow Steve's lead. We get out of the office together at 6 p.m. Today. And then, we're all safe, I think. Safe by the numbers.
My winter coat is a bright orange coat. There's no safe escape route for me. Everybody sees me wherever I'm coming or going.
Too obvious.
Yes, right.
Coming up next, welcome to the happiest corner on the airwaves, Roundtable's happy place.
Delivery. Delivery. Delivery.
What is it?
Happiness from Round Table.
So let me start off today's happy place as we gather to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Macau Special Administrative Region. It's a perfect time to reflect on the vibrant spirit of this remarkable city and its bright future. And most recently, we had the incredible opportunity to host a special show titled Youth Talk Macau's Next Chapter, where we engaged in heartfelt conversations with some of Macau's most promising young leaders, entrepreneurs, and students. And for those who missed it, I encourage you to check out Youth Talk Macau's Next Chapter, available for playback on all major video and audio platforms. And Steve and I, we hosted the show together, and it was quite the experience.
Yeah, it's my happy place today because, for me being new to China, everything is still a learning experience, right? Every opportunity I have is a wonderful learning experience. And for that particular show, we went to an outdoor location. We had a live audience there in front of us, and it was such a great opportunity for me to speak with some young people here in China and from other parts of the world as well who are studying here in China. I was blown away by their level of their Chinese ability. Their language ability was shockingly good.
Wow.
Reminded me that I have to study more. But to learn about Macau, too, and to learn about where Macau is going next. And I think I made a comment during our show that, if anyone was worried about the future of Macau, we don't need to worry now because there are some incredibly talented and smart young people who have got the future of Macau in their hands. And I learned a lot that day. I had a lot of fun doing the show with you that day. You did a great job, Heyang. And that's my happy place today. It was really, really fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. And can I also say, it was great to share the mic with you, Steve, because with your professionalism and enthusiasm, it just makes everything even better. And always when we have more participants on the show, more guests, and it's all live, organic, and a lot of things happen behind the scene, and they rarely go according to plan. That I can say as a host for live events. And I've really learned that you've just got to improvise, adapt, and overcome on the spot. Yeah, and Yunqi, you have actually visited Macau many times.
Yeah, so as a person born, technically, no, actually not born. I was born in Hunan, but raised in a city in Guangdong province called Zhongshan, which is just about an hour drive to the customs in Macau. So residents in around Guangdong, we do visit both Hong Kong and Macau very frequently. So I've been to Macau for a couple of times. I really enjoy the culinary culture in Macau because it sort of incorporates both Chinese cooking as well as many Western methodologies.
The chicken dish, I think, was one of the things that...
Oh, have you tried it?
Well, no, but when we did the show that day, and, food came up, right? I think it was one of the first things we asked our audience, actually, both offline and online. And by the way, the online audience that day was wonderful as well. But yeah, we talked about the egg tarts.
Egg tarts.
Which everybody knows about. But the chicken dish.
Portuguese chicken.
Yeah, everybody was talking about that too.
Yes, and also Macau has such a vibrant cultural scene. Also, its economy is developing, and our guests talked in depth about the different routes of diversification and how the city is finding new life in these new industries, and how young people see new opportunities, and also they're treading uncharted territory to some extent, starting your own business, and you might not succeed the first time around, but go for it the second time, and if you learn your lesson, you're making progress. And it was just really fun to not only hear all these stories and achievements as such, but also sort of hear the thought process of getting there. And I think that's always the best part of these interviews.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons for why the food culture in Macau is so popular and well-known is because they really keep their local the very tiny, small restaurants that you can only find in the small dark alleys, and they really preserve the precious bit of culture and history in this place. Because some people, when they go traveling, they prefer to, let's say, find the most popular restaurants on Yelp, and let's hit all the top sellers.
Sure.
But I think that's perhaps not the best way of trying out the local cuisines when you are traveling to a new place. And so I personally like to visit the sort of, you may look not so clean, but they do provide the most authentic and delicate and delicious.
The mom and pop
dishes.
shops, those are always the best places to go, right?
Yeah. And you can find plenty of those shops in Macau.
Yeah, so that's one of the other things that I learned is that it's got its rich history there. It's got its exciting future on the way. It's got so many reasons to visit there. I learned as well. I had never met anyone from Macau before. That was my first time to meet people from Macau, and they're very, very friendly, and that wasn't a surprise. I expected that, but still, and they had lots of wonderful things to say about it, and I made some new friends from Macau, so I've never been there before, but I'm very much looking forward to my first visit so that I can try all the things that you just talked about.
Yes, and it would be my second visit, but definitely so much to check out. And I just want to say here, happy 25th anniversary, Macau Special Administrative Region. And well, that's our happy place this week. And let's keep finding joy in life. You just need to know where to look for it. Thank you, Steve and Yunqi, for joining the discussion. I'm Heyang. We'll see you next time.